Tonight's lecture is the Eugene Byrne Memorial Lecture. Many of you may remember Eugene, played Milwaukee Irish Fest for many, many years, was a great friend of the festival. Whenever we go to Ireland, we'd see him on tours in a variety of ways, lived on the East Coast, and we actually were blessed to have a visit by his son only a few months ago, and we're able to show him in the archives all the stuff we had on Eugene, and it was very nice to have that visit. This year, we have an esteemed guest. Many of you know of him through the years. He's played our festival many years, is a person with great integrity, and a person that we have enjoyed his music for many, many years. Please welcome Tommy Sands. So we're going to do, this is more or less of a interview format. We'll have Tommy do a few songs, but hopefully we'll get to know him, where all the music came from, and hopefully you'll learn more about him tonight. So Tommy, one of the things that most people know about is the Sands Family Band, but tell us about your parents and your ancestry and where all this came from.
Well, I'm delighted to be here, Barry, at this great festival and see so many faces that I know from other years. Some of them getting wiser looking, like myself, hopefully. Well, my father played a fiddle, and all his brothers did, and all his uncles did. In fact, he used to talk about there were six uncles who were fiddlers and 6 aunts who were diddlers. They were lilters. They would lilt for the local dancing. Okay. So there was always a fiddle in the house. And in fact, I remember my brother brought in the first guitar that ever came into the house. And my father looked at it very suspiciously. And he said, "Where is the bow?" But my mother, her father was a poet, a local poet, and his poems are still recited in the area where he lived, which is Byrne, near Byrne Point, about 3 miles from where I grew up, maybe 4 miles from where I grew up. They met at a dance in a place called Broxtown. They both walked maybe 3 or 4 miles to the dance, and my father was playing the fiddle that night. He didn't intend to play the fiddle, but the fiddler didn't turn up, and he was asked if he would play the fiddle. He had paid 6 to get in. So when he was going out through the door after fiddling all night, they gave me 6 back. And he regarded that as a good payday.
Tell me about the area that you grew up in the Mourne.
In the foothills of the Mournes. Any Mourne people here? Ah, good stuff. It was a place called, to be honest, we lived near places. If I told you exactly where, you wouldn't be any the wiser. Because the townland of Ryan was, it's about 3 miles from any village. And so if we needed anything in the shop, we usually walked about 3 miles for it. The chapel is 3 miles away, the school is 3 miles away. So we grew up very athletic. It's a place called, the town land was called Ryan, or Rain. I think the Irish word is way. In the Bible, I'm not too sure if Jesus spoke much Irish or not, but if he did, when it was translated, he said, Ismisha an Rain, I am the way. So the townland, it was 3 miles long and 300 yards wide. So it is a kind of a stretch or a path. Mm-hmm. And it is kind of a way. So that is where I grew up. And they were all small, independent farms. All independent until the thresher came along. And then nobody was independent because everybody needed each other. And we were surrounded by people of all religions, of course. Well, actually, there's only two, but, or maybe only one if you wanted to be smart alecked about it. But they were great people, and we worked in the fields together, and we got to know each other, of course, very well, like a big family.
And how was the music? Was it done in your house or at other people's houses or a hall or?
It was mainly at home, because these people would come into the house, and my father played the fiddle, of course, my mother played the accordion, so that would lure people in, and I suppose we didn't have any electricity or televisions in those days. In fact, the only running water we had was running to the well for it with a bucket. Mm. Or as my mother would say, take two, it'll balance you. but the people, my very earliest memory, I think, was watching these toes tapping to the same rhythm, regardless of the political affiliation or religious persuasion, and realized at a very early age that music was something that could somehow connect up all the secret and the sacred things inside us without our knowing or without our understanding. And that is, looking back at it now, that is very important time for me.
And do you remember your first song that you would have learned?
Probably it was a lullaby my mother would have sung. Because my very earliest memory of growing up in a world of music was listening to the sound of my father's fiddle coming leaking underneath the bedroom door. And my mother, we went to bed before the neighbors come in with maybe an odd black bottle squeaking in their inside pockets. And a story on their lips, but my mother would have sung us to sleep with a song, and it's usually, I think about da 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 da, Mary, Mary, dearie, dearie, sing to Mary, da 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 da. It is a beautiful lullaby, and again, I realized how important music was. Because it could put me to sleep. And so I think that was the first song that I heard. And then when I was old enough, and we were all, there were 7 of us in the family, 2 sisters and 4 brothers, 7 of us. And we would all take part in the sessions and just listening and looking on at the beginning. And then, of course, there was always a tradition, as it would be, I suppose, in many families. Everybody had to do something to help shorten the winter, And if, some people would come in and say, I don't sing it at all, I don't sing at all. I know a song, but I can't sing it, And my father would say, well, tell us how it happened then. What happened in the song, So everybody had to do something. It was almost a duty to a poem or a song or a dance or something to contribute to the event.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about the band, getting the band together. Well,
we never planned anything. There was never any such thing as a business plan. We played at home, and then neighbours coming in and say, will you come and play in our house? And then the local parish priest asked us to sing in the hall, and then the neighbouring parish priest would have done the same, and maybe the Orange Hall, the same thing. And so we would have sung in all the places where people collected. And people said, you'll have to make a record sometime. I suppose everybody's told that. And I remember there's a man called Billy McBurney in Belfast, and a friend of mine called Mark McLaughlin, who owned a pub in Dundalk. And Mark was the eldest of, I think, 22 children. And there were two mothers on the job. The first one had died, and Mark's father had got married again. And they actually, Mark was a bit of a wheeler and dealer, and his father was too. But there was a factory in the west of Ireland. They were making statues of St. Martin de Porres for some reason. Not St. Martin de Porres, Blessed Martin de Porres. And nobody really was very interested in Blessed Martin de Porres at the time. And the factory closed down. And Mark's father bought the factory and all the statues of Blessed Martin de Porres. And then, whether there's any connection or not with the Vatican, but the Vatican, in their wisdom, decided to make Blessed Martin de Porres St. Martin de Porres. And there wasn't a parish priest in all of Ireland or a Reverend Mother who didn't want a statue of St. Martin de Porres. So they made a bit of money and they bought a pub. And that pub became one of the first, probably Mark's Bar and O'Donoghue's would have been the first two Irish pubs as such. Everybody would have went there to sing songs, and people like the Dubliners would have come, and everybody would have went there. So Mark organised that we make a record or make a demo tape for the record company. And we didn't have any electricity, of course, but we borrowed a tape recorder. And the only people with electricity near us was our neighbours. They lived about maybe half a mile away or less. And they had a generator, an electric generator, which they used only for milking the cows. So that's the only time they'd turn it on. So we had to go over and we recorded it in the byre, in Brennan's byre. And then that became a record. We recorded it in 1968. Didn't come out until 72 because of troubles and one thing and another. And so that was the first record we made.
And so I told Tommy upstairs before we met that there's one story I've always enjoyed him talking about so much, and that's, I believe you won a contest that you got to America.
Yes.
But tell my friends the story of the big venue in America.
Well, I remember my uncle who came back from China, he always got the Irish press every day. And he lived with us. He's a missionary. In fact, he's the only man from the Ryan town land who had met Mao Zedong. Because Mao Zedong was the leader of the guerrilla gang that captured him back then, and he was a prisoner for a long time. And anyway, he got the Irish press every day. And he used to walk, he'd get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, he'd walk up and down the road, the Ryan Road. And whenever he came back home, everybody would have the houses very clean, Protestants and all, because Father Hugh was coming home. And the houses had to be glittering. But anyway, there was an advertisement in the paper that there was a competition on in Dublin, in a place called the Old Sheeling. People might remember it. Belonged to a man called Bill Fuller. And it was sort of an All-Ireland Ballet Group competition. And the winner would go to America. And we headed up, the five of us at the time, and my father, all in the one car, and a double bass on the roof. And we won the competition, and we came to America, to New York. And Bill Fuller was a very cool sort of man. I said, where are we playing tomorrow night? He says, you're playing in Carnegie Hall. And I couldn't believe it. And that was actually, we were staying in a place on 44th Street. the Manson or Madison Hotel or something like that. But there were 5 of us, and no taxi would take us to the hall, which we couldn't believe because the cars in America were much bigger than the cars at home, and we could hold about 7 people in our cars, and the bass on the roof. But no one taxi would take us, and we had promised our parents. I was the eldest, and we promised we wouldn't split up. New York was a dangerous place, and we wouldn't split up, so we walked, and it was about, well, I know this sounds like a joke, and it's become a joke in all the places, but we didn't know how to get there. And we asked people, naturally enough, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? And yeah, we got all these smart-ass answers like practice, and get a good agent and all that. But this man actually led us, a very nice man. He led us to Carnegie Hall, and it was a great night. It's a beautiful audience, and it was great.
Would you honor us with playing a song from those earlier days?
Right. Let's see. Let's see if we can remember one. Song from a little village beside home. Sing a verse of it anyway. I've traveled over many lands, many sights I've seen, but none so fair as would compare with my little Isle of Green. It is a spot I love the best, it's in my memory still, that little town in County Down, Rathfriland on the hill.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks.
So a lot of the songs in Irish repertoire are about places, and obviously stories about places. But you were also in the middle of the folk boom or the folk scare, however you want to look at it. Who were your mentors back then, as the band and yourself?
Well, I think we would have been singing local songs like that. There were 4 boys, or 5 of us actually, and we used to have to milk the cows in the morning before we went to school. And we only had 2 cows, and what would 5 boys be doing milking 2 cows, you might ask? Well, actually, 2 of us, myself and Hugh, my brother, we did the actual milking, physical milking. And the other 2 brothers held the cow's tail, because anyone who milks cows here would know that a cow would switch its tail, and it could take the glasses off you, even if you didn't have glasses on you. But I remember playing down in Nashville one night in a place called the Bluebird Tavern many years later, and Amy Curlin was she ran the place, and I took a look out, and all the audience had cowboy hats and cowboy boots, and she said, "I suppose you're a bit nervous, or all these cowboys?" I said, "I'm a cowboy." And I said, "I wonder did they ever catch a cow or a calf and take its horns off and all that stuff?" But anyway, we would, when we were milking the cows, we would sing at the same time. And you would always tend to milk to the rhythm of the song. And my father used to come out some mornings when he would say, "No slow songs this morning, boys, or you'll be late for school again." So he taught us all these sort of jig songs like or just fast songs. Tara riddle, tara riddle, is there anybody coming to the bridge of Mayo? And it's up on the mountain, that's the place for me, listening to the jackdaws singing on the tree. Let me see. How are you now and how are you coming on? I'll sing to you a story if you want to come along. Now whether it's a lie or whether it is true, it'll shorten the road from here to Balladoo. So tara riddle, is there anybody coming to the bridge of Mayo? So we got to school early that morning.
Beautiful.
Sorry, is that what you were asking me? I've got to...
Well, was you were in the era of
yes.
the folk music?
Sorry, yes. So we would have been singing a lot of these songs, but they wouldn't have been on the radio much. But then the Clancy brothers came back from America with the blessings of Hollywood upon them, and they had taken these same songs that had been sung in the kitchen and brought them into a different context. So they had to change the focus of the song, because if you're singing a song beside the kitchen fire, it's a different focus than if you're playing in a very big hall. And they danced the songs around the place, put a rhythm to them, and they came back, and everybody became interested in the songs that many of us were singing anyway. But it gave us a sense of pride. And I often remember telling Tommy that. He used to call with me very often when he came back home from America. In fact, if I could think of this one now, I might forget it. He was a rambling Irish rover, the bard of Katy Town. A rambling Irish rover sang the whole world round. When they heard that banjo play, to make them sing along. Make them sing like make them sang, and the song sings on. I always will remember when first I heard him sing, with the Clancy boys around him, they couldn't make the rafters ring. Took the songs of yesterday and tuned them for the day. Give us pride to sing the bride and sing the night away. He was a rambling Irish rover, the bard of Katy Town. A rambling Irish rover sang the whole world round. When they heard that banjo play, it'd make them sing along. Make them sing like a make 'em sang, and the song sings on. Tommy Macon. And sorry, my voice is beginning to warm up a little bit now. But Tommy and the Clancys were very important. And I think in the 1950s, Ireland was changing. It was looking back at the past and not wanting to look too far with the troubles, with the poverty. They wanted to look into the future, and they were embracing everything that was modern. But there was a danger of throwing out the proverbial baby with the bathwater, and the song tradition was being forgotten about. So when they came back, that led people back to it again. And they were very important. As well as neighbours that I learnt songs from, and my parents. And people like Liam Clancy, of course, brought Joe Heaney into the popular vision as well. So the Shannon songs and the older songs got a new breath of life, and that happened in our area as well. So we were singing, we sang the songs that we had been singing, but with a lot more pride and reasoning. Because the songs all meant something. They were all important songs. As you say, they were about place, they were about emigration, they were about leaving. And that was very important.
And you composed many of the songs for the Sands family, did you not?
I did, because at home, everybody would be singing a song, and everybody would have their own song, and you wouldn't want to encroach. That's somebody's song. He sings "The Homes of Donegal," or she sings "The Old Bog Road" or something, and that'd be their song. You wouldn't want to encroach there. So I started to write songs about what is happening around us. Maybe in the field, tying corn. Maybe a frog would jump into someone's Wellington boot, and that was a big event. I mean, that was a major event, and people would talk about it for ages. It's epic. So I would write a song about things like that. And then, of course, when the trouble started, I've been singing songs about pretty fair maids in the month of May or even June. But when it became July and August and our growing up, and pretty fair maids were amongst those been maimed and killed in the troubles, it was time to write new songs about that. And I suppose that's one of the reasons. I never set out to write political songs at all. I suppose more political songs in the Greek sense of people songs about ordinary people. And so that's, I suppose, how I get into writing songs.
And so you consider There Were Roses a peace song?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
It's a song of, people often say to me that you don't take sides, but I do take sides. I take the side of justice and equality, and people's right to live freely without danger, without danger of not getting a job, without danger of being killed, and that is the most important side for me. But with the troubles and people becoming tit-for-tat killings going on, and knowing people from both sides. In fact, just last week, I had an event with a former British soldier and an IRA man sitting together, and he was saying how music had drowned out the sound of the helicopter for him, a British soldier. A lot of his friends were killed, and the IRA lad had his mother shot, 2 brothers shot. But we sang a song together, and as we all grow up, we realize we're all people, we're all human beings trying our best to live with each other. So a lot of the songs were really about that from the earliest of times.
For some of you who may know that in December 2002, while the Northern Ireland Assembly was shut down, Tommy persuaded the members to return for a musical party. He also works teaching underprivileged prisoners in Reno, Nevada, to write their own songs for a variety of reasons. Some of them for their own defense, if I understand.
Yes, I was playing one night in St. Louis, or is it St. Louis? I'm not too sure which. I know it's in Missouri. But I was playing with Mick Maloney and Eileen Iverson, John is a great dancer. I can't think of his name. I should know him. I know him very well, but this is a few years ago. And there was this, after the concert, this tall, blonde woman walked up to me and she said, "Would you like to come with me to Reno?" And I said, "What had you in mind?" It turned out her name was Jill Berryman, who is director of the Sierra Arts Foundation. And she felt that because many of my songs came from a background of conflict, that they might have some relevance in the gangland prisoner community in Reno. And I've been singing it in the prisons at home. But I went there and played in the various prisons. And one was a place called Wittenberg Hall, which is actually a juvenile prison. But I think they were under 19. But they were there as young as 11 and 12, But sometimes chains in their ankles. And it's terrible. Sometimes you spend more money building prisons and building schools. But the kids were, the most important person for them in the world. It wasn't the gang leaders. It wasn't God. It was a judge who would decide when they became 19 if they should go to an adult prison or if they should go to a drug rehabilitation place or something like that. And I met the judge in the area, a woman called Frances Doherty, with an Irish and Scottish connection. And her job was to decide where they should go, to the adult prison or somewhere, some type of education place. And she said she didn't know what to do sometimes because they wouldn't talk much. But I noticed they would say all sorts of things when they were singing rap songs to me about different things. So I said, if we can get them to write a song about their life, would you accept that as a plea in their defense? And Frances knew about music. Words on their own can reach to the ends of the earth, but words in the wings of a song can soar higher and seep deeper and reach further inside to express hurt or pain or even hope. So she said, if you can get them to write a song about their life, I'll accept that as a plea. And I went in the next morning, and even though I've been writing songs for years, I didn't really know how to teach anyone how to write a song. But it's amazing what that mixture of terror and adrenaline can create when you're standing in front of 80 or 90 fairly tough kids. And they helped me a lot. We decided there'll be 3 verses in the song, one about the past, one about the present, and one about the future. And we decided there'd be 4 lines in every verse. First line, where were you born? Second line, what is it like? Third line, what is your family like? Fourth line, would you like to go back to that? And I said, don't worry about rhymes, that's easy. Just write a sentence in answer to the question. So they started to write. And actually, I knew we were going to have to get some melody that everybody would know. And I thought, what melody is popular in America? What singer is popular? I thought, Elvis Presley. They'll know Elvis Presley. Most of them never heard of Elvis Presley. The only melody they all knew in common was Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And I suppose their culture life had ended very young. But this big guy come up to me and says, listen, Baba, I ain't going to sing no Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And I says, well, do you know the air of Kumbaya? He says, yeah, brother, that's a good song. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, actually, it's the same melody as Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Kumbaya, my love, Kumbaya, oh Lord, Kumbaya. That melody is known in every folk culture in the world. So they started to write songs, and this is one of them, written by a young girl called Danielle. I was born in Stanford on the Bay. It seems so long now, so far away. There were pretty flowers all around. They grew up, but I grew down. Will you hear me? Will you hear me? When I was only very young, my dad left home before my life begun. He only wanted push and drugs. My mama cried and she gave me hugs. Will you hear me? Will you hear me? My youngest brother, he got killed right beside our favorite hill. They came and took my dad away and they locked him up in Reno jail. When I was 10 I ran away, my man and grandma cried all day. When I was 12 I went to Dayton, that's where I learned that word called hating. I sold my body to buy my food, I was beaten, bullied and abused. Will you help me turn the page? I'm a girl of 17 years of age. Sometimes I get a letter from Danielle. She now lives up in Virginia City. She's got a little girl of her own. And I'm sure she'll look after it better than she was looked after. And I think of another song to that melody. Many songs have been written to that melody. This one I thought was relevant. I see trees of green, red roses too. They bloom for me, they bloom for you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I hear children cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you.
So Tommy comes into Milwaukee with a new album, and he says he's got one song that comes from a little bit from Milwaukee Irish Fest.
Yes, actually, it's the album. It's coming here tomorrow. I think by on a parcel or a bag or something, box.
Drone.
And the album's called "Fair Play to You All," and the idea of fair play to you is a phrase we throw away very often, but in fact, when you look at it deeper, it's very profound. In fact, it's probably the lack of fair play is one of the reasons probably why there's so much trouble. But this is a song which I thought about coming to Milwaukee, because I know there's a great gathering and there's a great scattering. And the song is based a little bit on an event that we have at home in Rostrevor, where we gathered religious leaders together, and it's an organization called Arts of Wonder, which comes from a song called Hearts of Wonder, which comes from a song which was written by Pete Seeger and myself about this sort of thing. But anyway, in the room we had Muslims and Jewish people and Catholics and Protestants, of course, and a Hindu man as well. He was a great character. In fact, he's a president of the Hindu temples in the UK and Ireland. But anyway, I thought about Milwaukee and all the people who come here from different places, and I put this song together. I'm not too sure if I'm in the right key for this time of the night or not, but will you come? I'm going to go up a bit. I'm going to go up a bit higher. My God. Here we are. I think it's time we went up to D. Will you come to the gathering? Good friends from every land, for a story and song about what's been going on since the last time we shook hands at the gathering of the clan. And what about your mom? From the banks of the Bann, I could see it was he you had your eye on. How is it today? Did he go or did
stay, or could you do it with shoulder to cry on? Come on, will you come? Will you come to the gathering? Good friends from every land, for a story and song about what's been going on since the last time we shook hands at the gathering of the clans. There'll be music in the air if you care for to share, and a song for the dawn of the morning. There'll be dancing to be done to a different kind of drum, and another way of living for the learning. When you come, will you come? Will you come to the gathering? Good friends from every land. Story and song, or a story and song about what's been going on since the last time we shook hands at the gathering of the clans.
Don't strain yourselves on the chorus, for God's sake. You'll get it the next time.
And they're here from every land with a plan for the clan and a way to their own way to freedom. And if we can't agree, we can always let it be a higher quality of disagreement, and we'll see. Will you come? Will you come to the gathering? Good friends from every land. Story and song, or a story and song about what's been going on since the last time we shook hands at the gathering of the clans.
Thank you.
John, if you can hit the lights, and we'll take some questions from the audience. But once again, I just want to thank Tommy for being with us, not only tonight, but for the week and for the festival. Thank you so much, Tommy.
Thank you.
We'll take a couple questions from the audience. Any questions?
Or any answers?
John's got the mic. He'll come to you.
Tommy, over the years, I've seen you in different places, and you've always had a tape recorder, and you've always been recording conversations when people are gathering. Do you think you'll ever write a book about those conversations of people telling stories that you've collected over the years?
That's a good idea. I never thought of that, to be honest. I've written a book about kind of a little bit about my own life, the road I came. Not so much the road as what is happening on each side of the hedge, called The Song Man. I don't think I've got any with me, but I would like to write another book about people I have met, because I think we're always influenced and inspired by everybody we meet. Sometimes without them realizing it, but people. I think one time someone said Sean O'Casey was the most quoted poet or quoted writer in Ireland, but Sean would have said himself that he was just quoting other people. So they were just saying back what he had written that they could say, in a way. But no, it's a good idea, and I must think about that if I get time and live long enough. Thank you.
Another question? Up here in the front.
girl in the red?
Yep.
Would you sing another song?
Okay. Anyone in particular? Okay. This is one that is also on the new album. You probably know There Were Roses anyway. It's 50 years ago, when the civil rights movement began, we all used to meet in the pub, and people from every political background. There were unionists there, there were Republicans, official Republicans, also from the provisional movement, SDLP, all these people. And we would all get on very well together, sitting talking. And then when the trouble started, people went on all directions. But there was one girl used to come to those civil rights marches. And I never saw her after that. But it's about that type of thing and how things have changed since that, in a way. The first time I met her was down by the Clanray side. Her eyes like diamonds were shining whenever she smiled. I knew not her name or where her allegiance might fall, but she wore a tattoo to say fair play to you all. She wore a tattoo to say fair play to you all. I sing of a city when it was just only a town, a journey called Newry, and still in the county of Down, where innocence raised us, and maybe it's true raised you too. We were walking down Hill Street and not very much for to do. We were walking down Hill Street and not very much for to do. For the jobs they were scarce, and the dole check did not go too far. But that evening we ventured into Jean Crozier's bar. We both had a mineral, for none of us drank at the time. We sat down in the corner and quietly kept our heads down. We sat down in the corner and quietly kept our heads down. Mick, he was humming the Valley of Knockanure. You may sing and speak about Easter weekend. Sam Dodds, he was drumming the sash like oft times before. It was old and Jean lifted a bottle and she given on medical cough. I am thinking now, lads, yous have had about maybe enough. I am thinking now, lads, yous have had about maybe enough. In came James E. Kelly, a paper boy all of his days. His headlines were crying, God save us, Belfast is ablaze. The talking was dying and silence was rising instead. Somebody whispered, the march will be going ahead. Somebody whispered, the march will be going ahead. Well, on I could go, but to where I just really don't know. Those good people all gone, and that young girl so long, long ago.
long soft hair way down on her shoulders that fall. Upon a tattoo to say fair play to you all. Upon a tattoo to say fair play to you all. And her smile still smiles to brighten the dark that divides. Forever together down by the Clanrye side.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tommy. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Enjoy the summer school and Irish Fest. Tommy Sands.